Planning and going on shore excursions are a big part of a cruise experience, but making some of these mistakes can result in wasting money, in injuries, and overall having a day that you regret. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, no matter where you go on a cruise, no matter the itinerary, there's a good chance that you are going to be booking at least some excursions, and it can happen to the best of us. Even the most seasoned cruiser can make some of these mistakes. In fact, I got caught up in one on a recent cruise myself. But I want you to have the best day in port possible, so in this video I'm going to be sharing with you 10 shore excursion mistakes that cruisers almost always regret making. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Okay, let's start off with one that is not often talked about, but it is pretty important. Number one, not knowing your cancellation policies and your cancellation dates. So when you do book an excursion with the cruise line, most of the time that shore excursion is actually refundable. A lot of people don't realize that, but when you do book that shore excursion through the cruise line, you can often cancel up until 48 hours or sometimes 24 hours before that excursion. However, if you book one of the small group tours through the cruise line or one of the private tours or a curated tour, the cancellation policy is often different. So do check on that. It can be as much as 30 days before your cruise, or in some cases, a portion may even be non-refundable. Now, when it comes to booking with private vendors or even third-party websites for shore excursions, it's a little bit like the Wild West, meaning that you do not have cancellation policies that are across the board. So you just have to do your homework and check what the cancellation policy is. And something in particular to watch for is what happens if your cruise ship is not able to make it to the cruise port, if there's an itinerary change, for instance, or if there is something weather related where the cruise ship cannot make it in. What is the cancellation policy, and will you get your money back? Unfortunately, we've heard of cruisers over the last year who have been very disappointed, really regretted certain excursions that they have booked privately because those excursions, they came to find out, were non-refundable. Number two, booking the most popular shore excursion in any cruise port of call. It can happen whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're in the Mediterranean, whether you're in Canada, New England. There are going to be crowds in those popular tourist destinations. Now, I'm not saying to never go to them, but they can end up being a disappointment and you can definitely regret it. Now, that happened to me. We were on a cruise recently and we went to Magens Bay Beach in St. Thomas. Now, I had been there before, but being honest, I didn't really do my research, at least recently, to see what the experience was like now. And unfortunately, beyond the crowds, there were some other negative things that were happening at Magens Bay Beach. For instance, when it came to lounge chairs, they were all lined up row upon row, and we were told this is the way management wants it done now. If they weren't on their towels, they actually had their towels thrown to the side for chairs to be put on. And overall, it was just really crowded. And as much as I've loved Magens Bay Beach in the past, I just found it wasn't the best experience. And I would have been better off at one of the less popular, maybe a little bit more secluded beaches, or on a catamaran excursion. Now, if you've ever had a poor experience at one of the popular or most recommended tourist attractions in a cruise port of call, please let me know down in the comments below. Number three, not bringing cash and small bills on your shore excursion. Now, even if you've paid for the excursion in advance, even if it is pretty all-inclusive, you still want to have some cash with you for a couple of reasons. The small bills, you may want to tip people on your excursion. It's never required. However, it is customary to tip sometimes the driver or the tour guide. So have a few dollars handy in case you do want to tip at the end of the excursion. But beyond that, you'll also want to have cash with you in case you want to buy any drinks, in case you want to buy any food, in case you want to buy any water bottles, and a little tip. In addition to cash, even if you don't think you need it, I think it's always a good idea to keep one credit card with you just in case of emergencies. Number four, booking a shore excursion that is more physically challenging than you had imagined. And really, that is one of the worst mistakes because it can actually result in an injury. Now, when you do book a shore excursion with a cruise line in particular, usually you'll see a little icon and it will show you the activity level or the fitness level. Now, that is something really good to use as a guide. However, make sure that you do read through the description of that excursion as well, because there could be some telltale signs that there could be some elements of this shore excursion that can be too challenging and can result in injuries for you. Now, some things to watch out for depending on your own levels of fitness is there a lot of walking? Are there cobblestone streets? While they're very beautiful, those can result in twisted ankles. So watch out for that. Is there a scenic trail? We were on an excursion a few years ago. It was absolutely beautiful. We walked up a scenic trail, but there were so many routes on that trail, and we could see that some people were really having a challenging time. Number 5, waiting too long to book your shore excursions. Now, these days, many cruise passengers book their shore excursions in advance on the cruise planner on the cruise line website. Now, in particular, if you're going to a destination that is either bucket list or there are just certain things that you want to do not wait. As soon as you book your cruise or as soon as those excursions are available, make sure that you book them. Now, while you can still board your cruise and find some excursions that are still available, the best ones are oftentimes booked up in advance. Not bringing any seasickness medication if you're going on a boat excursion, and in particular, if you are somebody who tends to get car sick or seasick, even if you haven't been seasick on the cruise ship, a smaller boat is something different. Now, some people get seasick on tenders when they get off the cruise ship. Other people get seasick if they go on a whale watching excursion. That's actually more common than you'd think. And other people get seasick on snorkeling excursions. Now, we had a friend who was on a Canada-New England cruise. He went out on a fishing excursion, and he said he unfortunately spent most of the excursion in the bathroom. He did not bring any seasickness medication. He wasn't seasick on the cruise, but on that small boat, yes, he was seasick. So make sure to bring something, whether it's some Bonine or Dramamine or sea bands or a patch for behind the ear. Now, by the way, I do have a video all about preventing seasickness on a cruise, and I'll leave that at the end of this video in case you do want to see that next. Not bringing the essentials that you need on your shore excursion, and this can definitely be something that people can regret, from not bringing reef safe sunscreen. If you are on a shore excursion in the Caribbean, that is often something that you will definitely need. Not bringing lip balm, not bringing water bottles. You want to stay hydrated. Now, if you want to know what in particular do you need for your particular excursion, then usually when you do book your excursion, you'll see in the description, it might let you know a few things that you should bring. For instance, should you bring water shoes? Do you need a poncho for the rain? Should you bring a backpack? You may see a few of those things listed there. And as well, you might see that information on your shore excursion ticket. Now, make sure you keep a little list so you don't forget a thing. Ignoring or not paying attention to the reviews. Now, the reviews are there for a reason, so we should definitely pay attention to them. And if we do see negative reviews, well, of course, I think we still have to take that with a bit of a grain of salt. However, if there is something negative that is being repeated in review after review after review, I think we should heed that warning. Now, in addition to reviews, you can watch videos, read blogs, and join Facebook groups where you can get real feedback about those excursions. Now, one of the worst mistakes cruisers can make, and this is definitely one that people say that they regret, is not booking shore excursions because they are expensive. Now, if you are going on a cruise and your intention is just to relax and the ports aren't really that important to you, that is something different. However, when you're booking a bucket list cruise or going to a destination that you don't think you'll likely return to, you want to book those excursions. Now, there are some ports that are not easy to see on your own, that you cannot just get right off the cruise ship and walk around and find somewhere local to go to. And there are some major cities that you'll want to visit that are not close to the cruise port. So for example, Rome, which is a full 1.5 to 2 hours away from Civitavecchia, and Florence and Pisa, which are about 1.5 hours or so away from Livorno. And let's face it, the cruise costs a lot of money, and this is a travel experience that you really want to do. So even if you have to save a little bit more for those excursions, it is worth it. Now, I have one more that people don't always talk about, but it definitely can be something that you regret, and then I have a bonus. Not knowing when to skip the cruise line excursion and maybe consider a private excursion. Now, even though I'm a proponent of cruise line excursions, after all, there is convenience, and at the same time, you do have that guarantee that the cruise ship will wait for you if your cruise excursion is late, and there is definitely some value in that. However, along with those pros, there are definitely some cons, and there are some times that booking a private excursion might be the best decision that you can make. Now, when you're on a private excursion, you're usually going to have a small group, which means you can tailor your itinerary a little bit. You don't have as much waiting time as you would if you're waiting for 30 to 50 other people. And one benefit that we found with a small group is you're always able to hear the guide. When you're with 40 or 50 other people, it can be very difficult to hear the guide who might be at the front of the group and to hear them clearly if you are wearing a headset. Now, because of any potential risk, it is important to make sure that you do your research and you choose a reputable company and that you take a tour that brings you back to the cruise port with plenty of time to spare. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, make sure that you know the cancellation and the refund policy. And of course, always check the reviews. Now, if you've booked private excursions, please let me know your experiences, both good and bad, in the comments below. And the bonus, don't be late. Don't be late to meet your excursion. They'll be waiting for you, or actually the excursion might just leave without you, and that will be a waste of money. You'll have already paid for that excursion. And don't be late for any of the meetup times during your excursion. You'll also have other people waiting for you. And of course, never, ever, ever be late getting back on the cruise ship at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we've all seen those videos of the pier runners and people who have missed the ship and are crying at the dock. You do not want that to happen to you. So always make sure that you know your boarding time and keep your phone or your watch on ship's time to avoid any potential issues. Now, I'd love to hear from you. If there are any shore excursion mistakes that you've ever seen or made, please let me know down in the comments below. I will leave that video all about seasickness prevention right after this one. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.